that's interesting. That's that. Let's see if this will show up as well. Oh, that's a promising start, apart from the fact that the screen is blank. Oh, wait. There we go.
Loading.
Yeah. Yeah, so the most frustrating thing of all of this would be the time that I've spent trying to get the all my computer settings back in the right thing. So if it stuffs up, that would probably be the most annoying thing, because there'd be several annoying things, but that one's quite up there. But I'll explain more in 5 minutes when
When
we
you talk
officially
about it.
start this one. Good. Does that look good?
What the hell?
There we go. Okay, that sounds good. Speaking of your mic.
Testing 1, 2. Just checking in.
Okay.
Got turned on. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that sounds pretty good on your end as well.
Ooh.
Make that a little bit smaller. Can see that working there. Turn that up. Oh, 19. That can be played around with afterwards. All right, sweet. We're even 5 minutes early.
Damn.
Was not expecting that.
How was the handstand retreat though?
Yeah, man.
Good fun?
Yeah, lots of fun. So I'll show you some videos and stuff in a bit. But actually I can probably do it now. Why not? Yeah, I'll let you go have a look-see through them.
Where ended up going? Was it just like the core group from the Fridays?
Yeah. So me, Brennan, Kwok. So there's 3 guys, 3 girls. Me, Brennan, and Kwok. And then there was Charlie, Belle, and this other girl called Anna, who'd come every now and then. She's not super always coming on the Fridays, but she came as well. So I had met her before.
Where was this place?
So this is in Mount Tamborine.
And
it was like three king size beds. It was a really nice Airbnb. It was kind of like this a lot of wood everywhere. So didn't have a TV there, but there was a fire. There was this nice big deck to be able to, we basically just did handstands and tons of shit on. The inside was like just lots of couches and just space to spread out, I suppose. And so went up there.
Hey, like you guys set up the rings as well and everything.
Yeah, set up some rings. We even had an extra set for me. And guess what I found today? Just at Raymond Park.
What, another set?
A set of rings. They were just hanging there. I was there for 3 hours. Nobody came
and got it.
So I was like, well,
score, mate. Score.
I'll take them if anyone claims them, or does a post on any of the groups.
Future, then you can give it back. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just like, what the? Who leaves a set of rings?
That's an odd thing to leave hanging too.
They're good ones as well. They're kind of like wooden rings. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just because there was a guy there playing on them. I was like, oh, these must be his. But then he went away, and then other people who were in the area went away. I just went like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's odd.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. The handstand retreat. I was
gonna say, I'm assuming Kwok will probably put together like a full video.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like the random videos, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Indeed.
Did you enjoy it enough that you're like, fuck yeah, like I'd do that a couple more times sort of thing?
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we've already brought up the idea of doing a Bali one or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, whenever I see people do they'll go to special. Well, I mean, they do like normal training, but they also do like a CrossFit special one because there's a big, humongous CrossFit gym down there, and they'll make it like a big trip where you just go there, train like every day, and then just fucking chill out and go to the beach or whatever.
Yeah.
Any of those things where it's like we have like the full undivided time of just going to do shit you enjoy. You don't have to stress about anything else. You're like just with people who are doing the same thing. You're like, fuck yeah, this is good.
For sure. No, it was a real good group. We all got on, like there was no, we could all just chat with each other. So there was no one who like,
it was just easy.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk to them or anything like that. So easy and fun is probably a good way to describe it.
Good.
All right, so yeah, got a minute, but I forgot to message my brother. Hopefully, he'll be able to pop in the chat.
Anyone joined in so far at all?
I can't see the stream settings at the moment, and I did forget to do it on Twitter. Screw it, I won't broadcast too much.
Just in case.
Just in
This
case.
one. Yeah.
Just in case. But yeah, I'll bring that up right at the start. All right. My phone has officially gone into the orange light mode. That means it's time to start.
So what it says when it goes into orange light mode?
No, I set it for 7 p.m. So it always goes into orange.
Oh,
mode at
gotcha.
7 p.m.
Into blue light.
Yeah, whatever that's
yeah.
called. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, welcome everyone back.
Woo!
We're back again.
We're back.
Mere Mortals are back.
Actually
to
back.
A live episode of Musings. We've taken a break, and I'll explain why that was shortly.
Yeah.
But yes, this is a Musing Sessions where myself, Kyron,
And Juan over here.
and Juan on the other side, we dive deeper into a particular topic, muse on it, and we also do midway through our Boostagram, showing our support to all the people who are helping us out in the value for value model. And today we will be talking about ethics and drawing an ethical line in the sand. What are some biggest ethics that perhaps we might have, or just our thoughts on ethics in general? But yeah, before we get into that, I want to apologize for the break that we had. You might notice we've been missing for a week in the schedule. If you haven't checked into any of our social media, you wouldn't know why. It's because my laptop over here was deciding to have some troubles. In particular, one of the RAM cards was not the card itself, the connection to the RAM.
Yeah, the RAM port seemed to
RAM
just
port.
decided to give up all hope of life.
Indeed.
And not work.
So we lost a couple of the audios, and it basically died on the Wednesday of.
Correct.
We're recording.
Because you were having issues like in the morning.
Yeah. It was in the morning, but I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, close laptop, all sorted out when we came here.
Yep.
Forgot, basically, not forgot, but it was just, didn't finish my workout until basically you came. I think you might have been here before I was here. And so we came upstairs, opened the laptop, and I went, oh yeah, I was having issues this morning.
More just sort of like, we're just sort of hoping that, the laptop would soothe itself and work, and it didn't.
No,
it
did not.
In any case, it is working right now. Which is a good thing.
It's working. At the very least, the audios will come out, barring this actually dying, which it did actually die, like a random hardware, after it's been fixed.
Yep.
So, In any case, I hopefully this.
If this dies. I'm going to assume that
an hour through, just as we're
I would assume that some of the YouTube would remain.
Yeah.
That would have been saving as a go. So,
yeah. In any case, that's the reason for the break. Apologies, working on it, and hopefully is back and good now. So Juan, ethics. Gonna get into
So why this one? What spurred this one? I know it was a little while ago, but I know we talked about it slightly in the last musings that we released.
Yeah. So what really spurred it was the second to last episode, the Value for Value podcast, was on this one called Generational Wealth.
That's the one
with cryptocurrency, and in one of the things that I really noticed that he did uniquely was there's Macintosh. He at the very end would say, there's a value for value model, and really explained why he needs your support in terms of I'm never going to take advertising. I'm never going to take sponsorship. And those are my feelings, but we don't particularly highlight that on here. And so I was thinking, instead of us, typically we tend to just go all right, we'll just do a full episode on this one thing. And then that way we can just direct people. It's if you ever want to know what we think about, or in particular me, think about advertising, go to this episode.
Go to that particular episode. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
It is useful to have those. So
should we begin at that point at the advertising
100%
conversation?
So I was actually thinking a lot about this, and I came up with three things that I would say are my ethics.
Yep.
But yeah, the advertising for sure. So I'm gonna just bring it this way. Actually, before that, I want to start with something else. So in general, I'd say 99% of the cases, it's bad, or you get suboptimal outcomes if you have too strong a stance on something. This is my opinion, which is that saying that you'll never do something tends to be a bad idea.
Yeah,
At least in my experience.
That is true.
3/4 of them I have done, and there's
Yeah,
probably a
we've
couple
talked about
of
this in the past where it's like, oh yeah, I'll never do that.
Yeah, I'll never
Then
do
you're
that.
doing it,
Yeah. Never gonna run again. Never gonna meditate again.
Well, I remember
Never
talking
gonna-
about the running one when we were doing the running challenge, and I was like, I don't think I'll ever run. I'm not going to run again. And here we are.
That's right.
Here we are. I'm doing more running. In
like-
fact, weirdly enough, though, kind of enjoying it now.
Of course.
So-
That's the thing. It's not like you do it and then you hate it. It's like, oh no, my opinions have changed or something else has changed in my life. So, and that's the thing. Like there is going to be change in your life. So, what you think of and saying you'll never do when you're a bit younger, it's going to change. So, why do that? But I will acknowledge that it can be like appealing to humanity as a whole. I would say to have something set in stone that you can't change, that you won't change. Why are there so many religions? It seems like there's a psychological need for that. But then also, I think some people in particular just need to have some certainty, some rock solid thing. And if they lose it in one place, they'll get it in another, which is, I really see this with the Bitcoin maxis. Like they go so hard into it, and it just makes me think like how can you be this hard into something so new as well? It's not like it has a millennia like Christianity does or Buddhism. No,
It's recent, 12 years,
like
13
12
years.
years
Exactly,
old.
yeah, 2009.
So that's pretty wild. I find that pretty wild. So yeah, just in general, that's kind of like my opinion. But I found 3, which I'm pretty
Okay. Now, when we were talking about in this particular thought process, and I listed a few that I don't know if they were exactly ethics, but
maybe
at
like
least
life philosophy as
Yeah,
well.
but
That was the other thing I was sort of thinking.
But at least like I would call them like personal ethic or ethical boundaries, like for
Yeah.
myself, that I would go, no, this is like I'm not allowing this to happen ever.
Yeah.
Like it's a very definitive like that's not going to happen in a similar way that I guess we're talking about.
How many did you come up with?
I ended up coming
roughly?
down with 4, although if I spark up and think of others, then we can talk about it and whatnot. But I also wrote down, so I wrote mine a little bit different, so it'd be interesting to compare to yours. So I went down the path of that I won't advertise or try to make money for the from the podcast just for an income. So I wrote it in this way. So I really thought about it and I went, would I ever advertise? I might actually advertise. Okay?
I mean, we have tried it once.
We have tried it once correctly, but I wouldn't do it for an income. So my ethical boundary here is like, okay, if someone sent me an email that said, hey, we're going to pay you $50,000, but you have to promote this particular political party and talk about them in 3 podcasts and interview 2 of these people. No, like that's not happening unless I see that as, no, it's not for the income. It's for other reasons that I want to do that. Cool. Like if
you would have done it already.
Correct. If it wasn't the case for money at all.
They just end up offering it.
Yeah. So if like someone was to say, yes, you can do that, but without the income, my answer would still be 100% yes. So, the example here is perhaps I'm just going to say Supreme. If I really enjoyed Supreme and either they ask me and I go and I feel like, oh yeah, I do want to actually advertise because the products are nice, or I really like wearing it. Now I don't wear Supreme fakes, just to give you an idea. But if that was the case, I wouldn't mind doing that through the podcast, but not for the intent of income. Like for me, it would be not for the fact of, I'm doing this so that I can get monetary, like actual financial gain from it. The bit where I was trying to see where I sat in the boundary here was, okay, but if you're still getting an income from it, like say for us, if they send through Boostagram or they decide to like give it money or to give apparel or something like that, is it breaching sort of some boundaries there? Because even though I'm saying that I'm not going to advertise for income, like I'm still getting it. So, should I hold the line with that or not? I'm still like, I'm unsure. Obviously, that's not a problem that I currently have.
Yeah.
That we currently have. So I go, I'm not sure. Where do you sit with the advertising?
Okay. Maybe this will help in line because this is what I thought. So mine was kind of, I will never accept advertising or sponsorship where there is an explicit contract or requirement that I say or do not say certain things. That was how I put it. So that I guess encompasses the money aspect where it could be money or it could be support or it could be whatever.
Yeah.
It could be them just doing something for me. But if there is an explicit thing where it says you have to say, Kyron, that Supreme is awesome, or you have to say that you have to never mention a competing brand to that. That's totally off limits for me. And that I think is the main thing where it's, if I'm being compelled to do something which I don't want to do, I think is the main.
But even if it's not even compelled to do, but maybe not just something that you ordinarily would or wouldn't do.
Yeah.
You know? Like if they were like, you can no longer wear Chuck's beanies, you know? Only orange beanies, please. That's what we want you to do. Only orange because it's that color. Can you please do it for us? You know, we can send you some coin.
Yeah.
That probably starts breaching a little bit because it's like, okay, you're starting to play with what I would ordinarily do and not do, and then potentially influence what I'm saying through the podcast to other people. That's kind of like channeling maybe the idea that they have and not so much the idea that I have.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing was, so I said, never when there's an explicit contract. What about when there's an implicit one? That could maybe be an edge case. So implicitly, when someone sends through a Boostagram, I think it's implicit in there that we will acknowledge or read out what they're sending back. That's kind of, I feel, I mean, that certainly there are other shows that don't do that. They've just got set up value for value, but they don't close the loop. With the way we do it, it's kind of implicit that we will as well. Like we say it, and then it's also kind of just in the background. But I think that's one where we have to be careful, because if it's like someone sends through something just totally awful, or just, you know, a page-long paragraph that just doesn't really make sense, it would take up the entire show, it would ruin the show, I'm not going to do that either. And so in that one, it's where it's kind of like, okay, I need to have the boundary point to be able to say, I'm not doing that for this one particular case.
And the beauty, I think, of doing value for value and we're seeing Boostagrams is that we do have the choice. You know, we have the choice we can read all of them. We don't have to read all of them. If they, as you say, if they've got some random personal information of a person that's like, well, okay, that's probably a little bit too much info. Like, we've got the ability to go, nope, it's our choice. Ultimately, it's our choice of what we put forward. But yeah, like if the implicit might be that, you know, they say Supreme goes like, yes, you know, wear these beanies, you know, be nice. And then every single episode they send like 100 Boostagrams, you know, that all say like, Supreme is awesome. Hey, by the way, my name's John and I really like Supreme. And it's just all of these, I'd kind of go, okay, like that's now, like that's a way that you could be impacting the podcast, and, you know, we're not going to be forced to read these things. So there's implicit nature of what we do that there would still be some troubles depending, but if we got to such a point, of course, I would kind of be like, okay, yes. Yeah. And so that's why I wrote income, because even with the implicit contracts, you can have that issue where, okay, if it's to do with income, like if I'm reading 1,000 Boostagrams because they're sending them money, and then if you don't read them, they're not going to send you the money. Well, then my choice is going to be, okay, well, I'm not going to read that.
Yeah.
Because that's like my choice, not because they're going to send X amount of money.
Yeah. And that's, you know, what No Agenda does. They've set a cap at, I think it's like 125 or 133 or something like that. So they'll read all the ones above that, but 133 and under, they reserve the right to choose
if they want to read it or not.
Cherry pick from that. And I definitely think the key to all of this is just the transparency aspect. So just showing this is exactly what's coming in. You know, I have no desire. I think there's something about the actual showing of light of the kind of behind the scenes. I think that can be enlightening in many ways as well, and which is why I don't think advertising, although I dislike it intensely, I think if it was done in a way where you saw what was going on behind the scenes, it's like, oh yeah, that guest on that popular show, and this is actually required by law in a lot of places, in the US especially, if someone is paying, you know, us to be on our show, you actually have to say that in the intro. You have to say, oh, this is a, you know, Andrew Huberman's paying to be on the Mere Mortals, seems natural. And he's paying $50,000, and we just need to say that right up front. Like, you
really?
have to, you actually have to do that. Because there's something about, there's some laws there about I guess it'd be like false representation of things. So, it's kind of like the pay to play. I don't know how much that applies to Australian law, but in the US, there's definitely been some podcasters recently who's been
pinged for that.
Yeah, because they're not showing that. So I think the transparency aspect is the real portion of it. So yeah, that's definitely my thoughts on the advertising and sponsorship.
I like him, and again, here's where I'd probably reach out to me and Mortalites and your thoughts, and we've asked it in the past as well, but send a Boostagram or a message. Would you feel like if all of a sudden the next couple of episodes we start talking about a random brand because we like them, even just that we like them, not even for the fact that we're getting anything from them or that would make you think like, oh no, that's still advertising. Like now you're starting to advertise, Someone like Petar, if he's just talking about, a particular thing, brand, product, something like that, even if it's our own feelings, could that be enough to be like, oh no, that's a little bit too advertising now?
I think that just gets into the realm of reputational value. If we start talking about things we really love and it's actually a really shit product, that's kind of a reflection on us. If we start highlighting things, in saying things, and people start listening to the show and they start feeling bad about themselves, or they start, I don't know, becoming more radicalized and witnessing bad things happening in their life, and it's down to us.
Well, here's an interesting one. I won't name any names, but I'll tell you about it afterwards. I think off podcast, because I don't want to ruin reputations. But I actually saw an individual, and they're a mindfulness and wellness coach, right, on Instagram, and they always post these great things about, you want to become healthier, join me, look how I can help you lose weight, all sorts of stuff. Right now, they're controlling the narrative and the things that they're saying. They're not influenced by any advertising and the like. But they did a particular video I actually saw where they kind of made it look like, oh, this guy who's walking on the street is looking at me and checking me out, but doesn't want to answer my question. And again, that's their choice of how they advertise who they are and the wellness and all that sort of stuff. But in the comments, I'm just getting roasted by everyone. Why would you do that? Poor dude, mental health and all this sort of stuff. Anyways, that sort of example. And the individual was sort of like, oh, it's fine. No, I don't think he felt that way. Now, there wasn't any advertising push to do a particular thing. There's none of that. But even there, that's you got to be careful with sort of the content that you're putting out, what you're talking about, because the reputation is you might put something, whether it's content, a podcast, whatever, that we think is going to be picked up a certain way, but it might be like, oh, no, you just ruined whatever reputation that you've built up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of compare it to, if we start saying something's absolutely out of left field, even though, and this is the, I don't know, the hard bit, because if you truly believe it, but then it absolutely alienates all of your audience, I kind of go, is it more valuable that your audience actually knows that is your view, or is it more valuable to not interact with the audience in that way and just continue with the other content? I don't know where I would sit on that, because you're not lying, you're just admitting truth that probably isn't convenient to talk about with.
Yeah, there's definitely boundaries. I mean, we don't talk about our sex lives, for example, on here, and relationships.
Man, you're so lucky. Okay, I'm not gonna go there. I was just gonna be like, Karen's getting none, but that's why I don't talk about anything. But this could be false,
which is why I don't talk about it.
Exactly, but this could be false. I don't know it 100%.
You get the point. I don't really talk about my family intimately, and everything that's happening there, because one, it's kind of not relevant. I'm not sure how interesting that would be. And two, there are stuff that I don't particularly want to talk about and don't feel it's appropriate to talk about, especially if it involves other people.
So I didn't write this down specifically, but I was going to say, did you have any ethics or lines in the sand about what you would be willing to talk about and not talk about around personal things like family or other things that you've experienced? You're like, no, that's something line in the sand that I will never share publicly.
No, I think all of that stuff in due time and in the right context could come out. But definitely if someone said, I don't want you to talk about this thing, and it's a loved one, then I'll stop doing that. Andrea, for example, when we broke up, she said like, was it when we broke up, when we're still together? She was just like, I'd rather you not kind of talk about me. And I was like, of course.
And here we are talking about it.
Yeah, well, there's context again. That was 2 years ago.
That was a long time.
So yeah, no, not particularly. And taboo topics as well. I don't know what's the most taboo stuff out there. Pedophilia, for example. If there's a reason to talk about it that is intriguing, and not just because I like pedophilia, for example, or something, man, that can't get taken out of context.
If we were the type of podcast that was so big that people were like clipping things, you'd be doomed, dude.
But if robots came out in the form of a child and it reduced and was made available for public sale to people, and it reduced actual rates of violence against children or babies or that sort of thing, I'd want to talk about that topic for sure. I think that'd be a fascinating use case of like something where it's kind of fucked up, but also
interesting to converse about.
It's making the world a better place.
Yep. Okay. A lot of.
What about you? Was there anything you'd? See, this is definitely one of the ones where I'd be like, I could say never now, but in 5 years' time, I have no idea.
It's similar to me. I think I didn't write it down specifically as like one that I would say right now. Like I could be like, oh yeah, that's a line in the sand. But maybe there is, and this is one of those that maybe in the future I'd still think that okay, there's some things that it's just not worth conversing beyond a certain like group of people, perhaps. So
yeah,
maybe is there going to be some things that like across everything in my life that I will be sharing on a podcast? No, potentially not. But again, never say never. Unsure. Yeah. You often, that's where you often find like all these people who people think is like heroes or legends and whatever it may be. And then you read the autobiography 20 years later and it's like, holy damn, I didn't realize they were doing all this crazy stuff. So, at some point it gets released or even like beyond, you kind of know about it. So I don't know how much you can say never to that sort of stuff.
For sure.
I had one here actually, so around ethics and putting a line in the sand about things that I won't do or won't allow. I guess I'll filter it like that. And this kind of comes to my goal setting.
Okay.
To goal setting. Because I go, if I'm going to take the effort of doing goals and goal setting, there is a particular level that I need to maintain, let's just say. Now, I'm going to say there's two levels. There's my like minimum level. My minimum level. And minimum level is... at least attempting to do some of the goals, right? And that's it to obviously not like the expected. So my expected is, 70, 80%. That's what I sort of aim for. Minimum is that I'm at least trying one or two. So if I've written them down, I'm at least trying. But my ethic, my like absolutely putting a line in the sand is that I wouldn't allow myself to achieve 0% goals unless forced. So obviously if you get into a coma for a month, it's probably going to be a little bit hard to achieve. Maybe I'll try to sneak in an hour of French or something like that when we came on. Yeah. That's a joke. Obviously can't do it. So I went, okay, unless I'm forced, fine. But otherwise, I think I am setting a line in the sand that's been there probably now for 2 years, I'd say at least, where I wouldn't allow myself to have a 0% goal. Like something would have to have gone so seriously wrong in my boundaries for myself, in what I've set to do for at least the next month. Complete pivot or something like that for that to allow it to happen. And so I go, that's probably something I can go, that's my absolute bare minimum for my expectation of myself and the ethics that I maintain there. So, that might be, some people might be listening to that and go, that sounds a little bit maybe over top, because you might go, well, what if you do a month and you decide to travel and you actually do none of those things?
Family members get in a car crash.
Exactly. Like something like that. I'd go, yes, again, unless you're forced, like absolutely mandatory, all hours of the day are taken up from something because it's such a top priority. Okay, understood, and I'll allow that for myself. But for the majority, no, there's got to be some sort of effort there of the monthly goals that I've set. Yeah, for sure.
See, there's actually one where I could say where I'm kind of varied on that compared to you, which is I know I've definitely set a couple which I kind of had no intention of doing. So even one recently was the dance one. I put it in, like, the only reason that I wrote I'll try and go to a salsa night on Thursday was just because there would have been a blank spot if I didn't have something there.
Yep, fair.
That was the only reason I put it out. And so, maybe it'll like magically happen, but this is definitely one where I was just like, oh, fuck it, I'll throw it in. And, that could be a degrading of the quality of the goals and the discipline and things like that. If I start putting things in which I have no intention of doing, you know what, that is kind of dumb and opposite of what I'm actually trying to do, counterproductive. So that's definitely one where I'm probably looser on that than you.
And it's not to say that I'm not allowing myself to achieve 0% on individual goals. I'm not going to that finite view, because say again, I've got this month to do that Web3 Web3 content, right? And even right now, what are we on? 20th, 21st. I still haven't gotten the equipment I need and the table I need for where I'm living at the moment and the setup of what I want to talk about. I kind of have it listed out from like 3 months ago. But truth be told, I don't think I'm going to get through that this month either. Yeah. And I go, okay, that's going to be 0%, that particular goal. But I guess what I said, maybe to be clear, it's to achieve 0% across the month. Yeah. So it's like, if of the 9 that I listed, I do none of the 9, like literally just don't even look at them. Okay. Like something's gone wrong at a whole structure of my goal settings. Okay, if I'm not doing any of them, and they're somehow mapped to like my long-term goals or my annual goals, then either I'm just not doing any of them and I've completely moved away from everything that I think that I am, or something crazy's happened and I couldn't do it. So either of those things. Gotcha, that's kind of like my line in the sand.
Cool. Let me do one and then maybe we'll get into the Boostagram. So my second one that I had was about violence. And I've kind of brought this up before and just random ones, but I've put it this way. Part of me, I think, would die if I ever struck someone first. So if I was the first person to enact violence on another person, and
damn,
in the sense of the intent to harm is how I'd put it. So we play wrestled around in Airlie Beach, but that was violence. I guess you'd call wrestling as violent, but there was
I was there to kill them all.
Yeah. But if there was ever, it's more like if I can have the anger, and I've certainly felt absolute rage at times, and I can have the hitting of someone, like the actual physical thing, and I've certainly, I'm pretty sure I kicked a girl in yoga once in the face because I just wasn't aware of what I'm doing. But it's the
out of anger.
Yeah, it's the combination of the two where I've got the anger and I use the violence of some sort to enact that.
Okay.
Even self-defense, I'm like, self-defense I suppose would be acceptable, but only to get away. So, like self-defending to be able to incapacitate that person or to harm that person. I think that also crosses a boundary point for me.
So your line of sand is you don't think you could enact violence in order to hurt?
Yeah, pretty much. And so, like, how far in this would I go? I don't know. One, I don't put myself in violent situations. So, I've got friends who are like, they've been in street fights and bar fights. And I just go like, how does that even happen? Like, how
does that eventuate?
I've just never been close. I've seen people fighting, but it's never been even close to me. And I'm guessing it's because I do all sorts of steps beforehand that don't escalate to violence, whether it's me leaving, me diffusing the situation, just not being in certain areas at certain times, that sort of thing. But if there was a call up, if there was a draft, I'm pretty sure I'd be a non-consenting, like they'd probably just have to throw me in jail here because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be comfortable participating in that. It's definitely on the front lines and even in kind of like a support role where there is no, I'm the one radioing in where the other people are. I'm still not sure I'd be able to do that. And I don't. I've written down here like Gandhi's non-violence would be my basic philosophy here, but that does require your aggressor to have some self-restraint. So
true.
Gandhi, being having a non-violent philosophy in
Doesn't help
in
if someone's
Germany.
coming stabbing you and putting you in prison and
basically like
prisoner of war camp and trying to kill you.
He was relying on the British to kind of obey their own morals and ethics, and he was just forcing it into the light by doing it in this particular way. I definitely need to do more work on this, but that's kind of the level that I think about violence. And it's weird. I know it's weird because I enjoy cartoon violence, for example. Like
That's very different. That's very different. That's definitely very different.
Yeah, I find I can't watch MMA. I can appreciate boxing, but for the skill level of it. But yeah, there's just something about it that it's it's a weird topic for me. Definitely is one of the weirdest ones.
Okay, so this is where we the similar
One
because I certainly want the violence that comes along with like violent sports. I definitely enjoy watching for the violence. Like there's a certain level for me of whether it's MMA, dude. Sometimes when people will watch some gym motivation to go to the gym beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Get you pumped up, right? Have the adrenaline going. Sometimes I listen to some hardcore music or whatever it may be. Sometimes, dude, what I love to watch is like the hardest rugby hits or the hardest punches or the hardest thing on MMA.
Yeah.
And that gets me amped, man, dude. I'm like, sometimes I watch it, I'm like, that's it, I'm ready to rock and roll. Like, I'm good. This violence is riling me up. Yeah. So I think I would have no problems being violent to other people for sure. I think there's a default aggressiveness and assertiveness that would probably also lend itself to be violent. However, immortalized out there, you might be thinking like, man, this dude's gonna go out of his home swinging. I'm also very much like a teddy bear when it comes to a lot of these things, because I think this happened just like the other day where someone was either aggressive to me or someone like talked to me about almost like, oh, this dude's gonna like fight someone or something like that. And then me and my partner laughed because we were like, we know that I'm just like such a teddy bear when it comes to a lot of these confrontations. I'm much more about de-escalating or talking through a lot of things than wanting that to be the default. Like you would know me, I'm not like default out and about being like, okay, like time to get violent, like this is the way to go. No, it doesn't end up going like that. But
doing things that would
incite the violence. Yeah, so like that doesn't occur. But personally, I go, ooh, this interests me.
Yeah. Okay.
Even to the almost, is it masochistic way for myself in terms of like, here's a good one, right? So this is like very little, but yesterday I went to the gym in the afternoon to go do a training session, right? Okay, so here we come about violence and stuff like that. So I got into the car quickly because I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm like amped up on some pre-workout. And I haven't done this before, but like my right knee collided with the front panel of my car as I was getting in, and it sliced like a good layer of skin off, right?
This is the second time your car has banged you up.
Man, it's crazy. And then, so knee, blood spurted straight out of the knee, right? Like on the ground, knee's going everywhere, like blood's going everywhere. And I'm like dabbing a little bit with like stuff pouring out.
What are you doing,
And
man?
then I felt deep in my like raw animal sense. I was like, fuck yes, like this is good to go. Like there's going to be a good leg workout. Like I just felt like so violent.
How does?
And I had a great workout. Like it was a really good workout.
How does blood do that? Because normally blood makes you faint.
I don't know. That's what I mean. It's so weird. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't. Okay. I think perhaps because my mindset,
so
my
when
mindset
a nurse
was different.
Takes the blood, you're either gonna faint or like soccer out.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I'm either gonna faint or we're on for a fight. Like this dude's about to get dropped on a head. So So like that, I was just like that. I was like savage. Like I was like, I want to take this blood inside.
Wow.
To that point, like I was like, man. Yeah, so that,
Okay,
there is a difference. Yeah. There is a difference, folks, between the mere mortals.
That is extreme.
Good. Okay, let's do some Boostagrams, I think. The Boostagram
Nothing on the chat. It's going to take us time to build that back up again. After
that's all right.
Switching the day and also having a break doesn't help.
Yeah. Nope, that's all right. That's sometimes the way it goes. So let's get into the Boostagrams, folks. Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, from the 9th of August.
Yep.
We've got one here from a good friend, Karen. The Mere Mortals podcast is just a test boost.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a couple of those coming through.
Using Albi and Podverse. There was another one from yourself as well. So these one, it was 1337.
This was before the computer stuff.
The death, and then another one where you were boosting for multiple split structure. That was 500 sats you sent using Podcast Index. A weekly boost came through for the Mere Mortal Light Nation from Dave Jones. 12,112 sats sent. We're using Cron. Dave, always thank you very much.
Very much appreciated, Dave. The Pod Sage, for those who don't know, check out
Sage.
Podcasting 2.0.
And we did see, it was Dave's kid that did the shirt?
Dave's daughter.
Dave's daughter that ended up colouring in the Mere Mortal.
So the Mere Mortal
shirt.
White shirt that Juan currently has on at this very moment was tie-dyed.
Tie-dyed.
And
good.
another guy, so Stephen B of Curiocaster fame, saw that post and was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to do the same. So...
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
damn, I like it. Okay.
So basically, every shirt that we've given out to people
has been massacred.
They've hated and
they've hated and massacred.
No, they love so much they wanted to add their own unique spin. So how about that?
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You had another one here from us, just another live Albi test.
Yep.
That was just 1,000 sats sent using Fountain. From Peter, he says, I feel like I've listened to this show so much. My Australian is definitely improving. I'm moving up to 1.5 speed. 5,555 sats sent using Fountain.
Peter's
Thoughts
wild.
Thoughts on moving up to 1.5 speed?
I don't have as much.
Ethical line.
No.
Ethical line of saying,
if people want to listen to us fast, that's fine.
What about you?
That's great.
Will you ever go above 1.25?
I have done, yeah. Not too long ago, I have. There's the generational wealth one, for example. He's a relatively slow speaker, so his by default I put to 1.25. I don't have the
Tim Harris. You could go 1.5, and that'd be 1.
Yeah, 100%.
0.1.
Yeah, we don't put enough effort into the audio to make it so good that it's going to stuff it up if you do it. That's the kind of case I've heard from other people, which is like you're going to miss out on things or you won't get the same experience, which I agree. And I think by default, if you're listening to everything really fast, your probably stress levels are going to get jacked up slightly, which is maybe not great. But yeah, no, if he wants to do it,
I interestingly find a slight difference between it's very slight, so I don't know why I pick it up, but I do. That if I listen on Spotify, I listen on 1.2. And that's quite fine for majority of absolutely everything. The only one sometimes I slow it down for is Andrew Huberman, because the level of science that's being spouted out is so crazy. Or Peter Attia, that's just like the amount of information coming through is like so extreme. I need to listen to it at 1 speed. But on YouTube, I listen to it at 1.25, and it's sometimes slightly too fast. So for me, like the golden levels between, it's either it's probably no more than 1.2. That's sort of like where I like to keep it at.
Yep.
But in any case, Peter, thank you very much for the Fountain sats.
Very much appreciated.
And then the final one, another one from Peter. 25,000 sats.
Peter.
So using Fountain.
Thanks, Peter.
And Peter says, to quote a philosopher, Karen hates.
I don't hate any of them, to be fair. I was disappointed.
Yeah, Karen. What Karen actually means by that is that
he said he uncontrollable rage.
Uncontrollable rage. Like he was just saying about violence. If he saw them in person, dude's going to get stabbed.
Yeah. I'll break the rule for whoever he's about to quote.
Now this quote is, marry and you will regret it. Don't marry, you'll also regret it. Marry or don't marry, you will regret it either way. Laugh at the world's foolishness, you will regret it. Weep over it, you will regret that too. Laugh at the world's foolishness or weep over it, you will regret both. I'm unsure who that is, but I'm assuming it is maybe not. No, it wouldn't be Kierkegaard, because you like Kierkegaard.
I'm going to type that in now and we can...
Yeah, marry and you'll regret it. Don't marry, you will also regret it. Marry or don't marry, you'll regret it either way. Are you showing the screen as well right now? So for those listening at home, kind of just typing that into the computer so we actually find out.
It is indeed Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard! Now, you don't particularly hate Kierkegaard.
Nah, I was just disappointed.
Yeah, just a disappointing human, Kierkegaard. As mere mortals, we say you're disappointing. And anyways, that is the Boostagram Lounge. So thank you very much, obviously, to Peter, Dave Jones, and to ourselves.
Yeah, and a shout out as well to whoever it is that streams really highly. It could be Peter, I'm not too sure, but every now and then we'll get, the last 24 hours on the September 14th, 3,136 of just streaming.
Wow.
So someone out there is streaming hard. It could be Peter. I'm not too sure, but in any case,
cool to see.
Whoever that person is, thank you very much. Thank you for that as well.
Absolutely.
This was actually kind of tying into the transparency aspect of the value for value and the advertising, because man, there has been temptations on my part to go, I can game the system. The fountain charts, for example, I could just boost myself 100,000, 200,000, a million.
True, good point.
And be right on the top of the chart. A small portion of that gets taken away by the podcast index by kind of default. So 1%. But I was like, man, I'd pay 1% to game the chart in a way and put myself right on the top. Right? But I went, no, like that would be wrong, Kyron. Don't do that. But there is that kind of temptation as well. So you can have the perfect kind of value for value model, and you can still fuck it up as well. So,
of course. Yes.
So just because you've got advertising and sponsorship, and I'll talk a little bit later about the why, kind of like even deeper why behind that. It doesn't automatically mean you're an ethical person and that V for V is the way to go. It's like
true, exactly. You can still have bad people. And make it a bad game, even if everything's aligned to it being good.
Yeah, correct.
Well, I'll probably I won't combine these, but the last two that I've got here about ethics and putting line in the sand is much more around fitness and physical things.
Interesting.
So here's an interesting one because I actually went to go find out these details. I went, this is true. This is my line in the sand, right? As I'm 30 years old right now, but this will continue, and feel free anybody at any point anywhere I am in the world to call me out of this. But there's a line in the sand that I will not average less than 10,000 steps per day for the rest of my life. 10,000 steps, average walking pace day. And I need to confirm this before I say this, right? I need to go find some data here.
If that's doable.
My average, so if I average it over the last it was like 4 years and like 7 months or 4 years and 6 months, because it was like a little bit more than 4.5 years. My average per day right now is 10,750 steps. Per day. Yeah. So obviously doesn't mean that every single day I'm doing 10,000. Wrong. Some days it's 3,000, some days 4,000. But when you average it all out, all the days, I should be. My line in the sand is I'm not going to allow myself to go below 10,000 on average, and that's not something I've really ever tracked that deeply. Nor will I begin to be like, I'm going to pull out the steps numbers and like visually see it. But it's almost just It more fundamentally ties in with the way that I like to live life in terms of, I sometimes see people like riding a scooter or deciding to take the car to a particular spot. And I think it just identifies more around fundamentally, like I enjoy taking the time to go for a walk, whether it's listening to a podcast, whether it's, I drive to a location and then walk half an hour to work. I prefer that 1,000 times over saving 15 minutes and taking a public transport. Or taking a scooter. Just for me, like that is like almost the value of that walk time, that whether it's alone or with someone else or listening to something, it's just incredibly value in comparison to not so doing it. So for me, I enjoy walking. I can see myself doing a lot of walking, like as I get really much older as well, like in terms of rucking or just humongous walks. I enjoy that. And predominantly like all the holidays that I've ever been on, I enjoy walking and exploring everything. So the only one I think of the last like 7-8 years I didn't do that was Greece, I think, where it was much more, not as much walking, but even then I was walking quite a bit. But when I think back to Thailand, Taiwan, Singapore, wherever, I basically just walked all the cities everywhere. And that was like million times more enjoyable than catching a public transport to look around or catching a taxi to take me around or something like that.
Okay, so there you go. I'd never thought of that as being an ethical kind of line in the sand. So
well, and that's why I was like, oh, the ethics, or is it just my own line in the sand? I guess the ethical view for me was not so much, I guess 10,000 is a number, but underlying that is the ethics of, my view of the world is that I want to put myself in those positions where I'm walking, where I'm using my own like locomotion of movement as opposed to relying on doing it by other means, I guess was sort of my view.
Gotcha. I wonder how much I do compared to you, because I've never tracked my steps. What do you reckon?
I don't know.
Yeah, I should do that sometime.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna.
Yeah. I'll list the final one because it's very tied in with just sort of fitness.
Yeah, okay.
The other one just is, again, personal ethics in terms of body, in terms of exercise, in terms of movement. I wouldn't allow myself, now this is a little bit non-exact timeline, but I said I wouldn't
never allow yourself to get as small as Kyron.
Yeah. I said I wouldn't allow myself to not work out for an extended period of time. Now, again, so that can kind of go wherever in terms of period of time. But as when I could never see myself I would never allow ethically for me to become, a slob or become a person that would just turn away from trying to at least be better. Now, that doesn't mean that, if all of a sudden I decided I can only train once a week, or I'm only going to train once a week, that I've turned that down. That's, again, a choice that I make. But I think ethically, just in terms of, the way that I talk on this podcast, or I talk with people about very much, should be body healthy and mobile and all this sort of stuff. I just think it would be a deplorable view from me that if I didn't do that in a day-to-day basis, if you often hear of people like, oh, I'm super hard and I'm like super tough and I do all these things. And then you learn that, actually they sleep in like 5 days out of the week and they don't actually train. They just kind of make it look like they do. For me, I'm like, I could never allow myself to, of the way that I speak about things, to then not pursue that my own personally. So that probably comes in the line of how I present what I'm talking about, but then also just personally for me, I'm like, well, that's what I would hold the line for it. So
yeah, there you go. That kind of ties in with my last one here, which is lying, and in particular, that would be the kind of misrepresentation aspect of lying, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So I've been really influenced on this by Sam Harris. So he's got a book called Lying. Definitely recommend checking that out if you're just interested in the ethics of lying and what it would be to live a life where you don't lie at all, or like the most extreme case, which is what he advocates, what he says he does, or at least he did. It's been,
and this is like no white lies, nothing.
Yeah. So for him, that was essentially not allowing words to pass from his mouth that he consciously knew were lies. So you can accidentally lie in the moment for sure, or
you can admit the truth.
Yeah,
you don't have to share everything, but just not like lie.
Yeah. And I think like this is where he'd get into the black truth sort of thing, which is if your wife asks you, what do I look fat in this? It's probably better to say, instead of saying yes, just say, because she's just fat in general, she's going to look fat in everything. It's probably better to say, I'm not the type of person who will answer that question. Now, I think that's what he'd advocate, or at least that's Jordan Peterson also has a lot of good thoughts on this. So, in particular, the trying to distort reality, and so that's what it gets down to for me, which is, it would kind of fill me with anxiety when I'm lying. And there's always been the case. And it is that aspect of just trying to make things what I wish they were and not do the hard work to either fix it or fix myself. And that it's just, over the years, I've just found like, if I catch myself with explicit lies, it's better to nip that in the bud and kind of talk about that again and be like, hey, I lied about that. And nuance required for lies of omission and black truths. Those, I'm 95% of the way along with Sam Harris, which is just don't lie in general, or for myself. It makes things worse than it does make things better. But yeah, those I'm probably not as strict as him on some of those edge cases.
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of lying that brings fun, and I just think though, I think overall, I think it is true. Like, lying over not lying is probably better holistically to not lie. But I think there are good aspects of lying. Like, you can have, there's probably like jokes and the ability to have good comedic timing and the like.
A surprise party,
that is fun with lying. Yeah. So I guess in those instances, can you imagine like a surprise party where, someone, you're supposed to keep it secret and the person's like, oh, do you know about this? And you have to kind of be like, yes. Or you have to kind of be like, oh, you shouldn't be asking me that question, or something to that effect right now.
Giving it away by your inability to just do a lie straight up, because you can fabricate, you can divert, you can whatever, but it's pretty damn obvious that something is happening and you know about it.
I think my view on that is like at the micros, lying can be defended in many different scenarios, and that's why I kind of go, I don't have a problem with it in the micro sense. But I think in the macro, the overall view, I'd go, you'd want to tend towards not lying as opposed to lying. Especially, and what's probably, I don't know what's more detrimental, or at least I've got a view of this. Is it your external lying or internal lying? At least I view it as, okay, I think internal lying is probably worse than external lying.
Okay, I'd say external.
External lying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, for sure, internal lying. So and what I'm trying to say in internal lying would be, like, if you say to yourself,
this isn't a problem.
This isn't a problem. Or if you go run, this was a key one, right? So on the weekend, I went to go do a workout, right? A CrossFit workout on my own on Sunday. And I wrote it down onto my little thing before I even did the particular workout, because I just knew what I wanted to do in my head. I was like, I want to do, it was a 500 meter run, 5 snatches at 60 kilos and 5 cleans at 60 kilos.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to do that 8 rounds, non-stop. Just freaking, let's just see how long it takes, right? And I was on the third round. And I was coming back from the run, and I was running outside. It was hot, and I was cooked, dude. I was like so tired. I was like, oh man, I don't think I can do this. I was like, I'll just do 4 rounds. Like in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to do 4 rounds. And there was definitely a part of me which went, man, I'll just do 4 rounds, and I just won't even change it. Like, I won't change it. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And then it started playing in my mind.
I might hurt myself.
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. Where I was like, that to me, and the aspect of it is of like, pushing through and whatever. But there's also the aspect of the internal lying where I might have walked away and gone, I just couldn't do it today because it was this or that, and I'll totally avoid the truth of it, which is like, oh no, like you chose to stop. There wasn't an injury. There wasn't whatever. It wasn't really sucking that badly. It was like, nah, it was for this reason. But if you avoid that truth very directly or lie to yourself, I'm like, okay, that could be very detrimental. More so, I think, than external lies. Because I can imagine externally lying to whatever. Well, I'm thinking little things here, but like
my case for this would be someone comes up to you, you're a PT, and you're getting them to do that exact same workout. And you've recently read some reports about how doing eight rounds of this type of exercise is actually detrimental and more risk of injury. And this person is, injured themselves on the 5th round, and they go, oh, but Juan, you told me to do this, and was it how did I get injured? And instead of you saying, oh yeah, actually I might have pushed you too hard, you say, oh no, your form was bad, or whatever, the planets, it was too slippery outside, the damn gym owner. I feel like that, for me it's more, at least the damage is contained kind of within you. I think you can lie to yourself and still mess other people up, as in, oh yeah, no, it is actually okay to get people to do 8 rounds of this. So that
I guess in that even in that example, I still go the internal lie is worse than the external lie. But I guess I'm centering it to like you as an individual. The internal lie is worse, but maybe you could have a ploy in saying like an external lie could be really bad for like the rest of humanity or for more people than just yourself. Yeah. So
send us a Boostagram, which is worse, internal lies or external?
External lies, yeah.
So I did have a question for you, and I wanted to ask, where do you get these from? Where are these ethics being derived from? If you look back far enough into your past, can you see linkages of why you care particularly about this particular one and not others? So I can go with mine if you want me to.
Yeah, I was just going to say directly, I think the physical fitness ones probably stem from like always doing a lot of sports regardless, like from when I was young and enjoying that. So there's an aspect of that. But also just finding that movement in general was something that I kind of like prioritized over many other things, even back when I was like super young, as like, oh, I would rather be playing soccer or doing this over other things where I felt bad if I wasn't doing them over the top of the other. One thing that I used to do this heaps and heaps and heaps. I don't even know for what reason, because I never really played the rugby or AFL to do this. But where I lived with mum and dad, there was a little park that's like next to them, right?
Yeah.
Like big trees and whatnot. And I would go out there and I would kick a footy ball back and forth, pretending that it was like an AFL type goal, right? For hours, like easy hours, back and forth, get some water.
And
back
when he
and forth.
says back and forth, he means by himself. He'll
I'm
kick
talking
the ball
by myself, kick the
end,
ball,
run to
like
it.
run to the other end,
Kick
like
it again.
all the time. Like I do this all the time.
The saddest, loneliest migrant story you can imagine.
Right? Like
the poor Colombian kid,
this is what you'd
friends.
exactly. So you'd imagine this kid being like, man, he wishes he had people. Like it would be so fun. Immortalized. Like, let me tell you right now, there was a couple of kids that lived at the end of the street, like much younger than me. When they came out and they were like, "Oh, I want to play with you," I hated them. I hated that. I was like, "Go away! I want to be on my own kicking these football." Like I enjoyed myself so much.
Wow.
But it was in that that enjoyment of moving, of expending energy in that manner that I went, yeah, like I just always want to be doing something like that. So probably stems from a lot of that training sports that I was like, okay, there's a certain level of fitness, movement, locomotion, movement, if you want to say it, for like in a walking perspective, that I'm like, yeah, there's going to be some of that because it brings a lot of joy, especially, and not always, but even especially just like on your own, the ability to do that, whether it's, yes, maybe with a podcast or listening to music, but it might be just whether it's running or swimming or gym or whatever else. It's just a good, enjoyable thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you?
So mine, I looked back and there's a few instances for sure that really stick out at me. So the advertising one, I would say, is related to kind of freedom and free speech. So just seeing some people that I used to follow on the internet as a youngster, so like 15 years ago, and seeing how they have kind of been cancelled in many ways. So in particular, I'm talking about Rushvi, sort of stickers on the wall here.
Yep.
Also, the Sleek Freaks is up there as well. Shout out to the Sleek podcast. Finally got that coming. And I think it's just like the knowledge of what people would do for money as well. Justin Fox, he's actually in the chat in the moment. He's been talking about how Instagram he's been kicked off Instagram. I think Patreon,
for all the posting and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's weird because he's playing by the rules, but they're not playing by their own rules. And so that aspect of if you open yourself up to advertising and things like that, I feel like you don't get to set the rules. Other people are setting the rules, and you're kind of relying on their goodwill in many ways. Now you can have a contract and things like that, but contracts get broken. You know, there's the banks are meant to be all a bit against money laundering and things like that, and yet how much money laundering has happened through the banks, like all of it,
heaps,
because that's where it happens. So definitely some of that. There's also definitely a little bit of a personal distaste just for ads. There's just the jarring nature of hearing whatever I'm enjoying interrupted.
Did you know that YouTube is currently trialing?
Oh, jeez.
Not just, how sometimes... Now, we don't have this being immortalized because we have YouTube Premium, so we don't get any of this. But normally, if you would to watch a video, sometimes one ad, sometimes two ads.
Yeah, I do that on... I have a separate one for the...
They're currently trialing 5 to 10 ads. Unskippable. 5 to 10 unskippable. Jesus. I was like, damn, they're probably going to get a little bit of money coming through for YouTube Premium. So I was like, 10 unskippable? That's like 3 minutes. I was like, nah, that's out of control.
Yeah, wild. It's funny because in this little recent handstand retreat, I actually was looking through some of my old saved videos from... like most of these videos are from 14 years ago, 15 years ago. They're so old.
Yep.
And it was when I was really enjoying YouTube kind of for the first time. And there was actually a couple of ads in there. There's the Chuppa Chup ad with Chuck, where it's like this doll and it's eating a Chuppa Chup, and there's a gym trainer coming to say,
oh, as in like actual ads.
It's an actual ad. There's actual ads that I have enjoyed, and they're in a saved playlist, and I showed them this last weekend. So obviously I can't write them off totally, because there's a couple, there have been memorable moments, and I got enjoyment from that one. But I think it's the underlying aspect, which is, as a whole, the advertising industry, it feels murky and a little bit slimy to me. Just the aspect of taking money without it being kind of transparent in a way, and the
self-censorship
that comes from that.
There was a girl, there was a lady who, can't remember how long ago it was, but she left. She was a journalist at CNBC, and she left, and she was like a senior person, and the reason she left was because, and this shouldn't be news to people, but the CNBC was looking at what people were actually listening to as part of the news, part of the media that was coming in. And they understood that, if we showed them only this particular part of the media or this particular things that are happening in this particular way, we get more people watching. And so they actually instructed her, hey, when the journalist type of information that you need to present and be getting can only be this. You can't be talking about, maybe dumb things like a new small horse is born, but it could be massive things like, perhaps someone else is supporting Russia in the attack with Ukraine or something else to do with it. It's like, I don't know. You can't talk about that because actually our audience, we get more audience and more views for our ads in this way. That's where I started going, okay, that's a bit slimy. That's more along with the money, not around, trying to inform people or share the knowledge there. It's like, that's been subsumed by the money collection or the money hungerness that comes below that. So.
Yeah, that censorious nature, whether it be self-censorious or other people doing it, the restriction of kind of like the ability to speak your own thoughts is in the most kind of pure way, in the most kind of truthful way. That's what I dislike about it. And there's other reasons in terms of like risk management, having all your eggs in one basket for kind of sponsorship and advertising. No, that's risky. Probably a small part for all three of these. I was just thinking of the advertising, violence, and lying.
Yeah,
I'm just not good at it. I'm not good at marketing. I'm not good at violence. Like I don't know how to throw a punch, and I'm absolutely awful at lying.
Yeah.
It's not a skill I have. So there is probably a slight little aspect of it being, so ethically against things that you're shit at. So yeah, I'll put my hand up and acknowledge a little bit.
But maybe you have, whether consciously or not, also then veered away from becoming good at them because you ethically do not want to put yourself in those ways.
Which comes first, like chicken or the egg sort of thing. So yeah, there's for me, ethically wise, there's kind of like, those are the three big ones I think I don't expect to change much. I don't expect myself to, I would maybe try a kickboxing or something like that, but I just have the feeling when it got to actually hitting someone outside of, hitting pads or something, that's where I'd just be like, I don't want to do this, that sort of thing. Honestly,
sometimes I get enjoyment out of that. I remember back in the day, when like I dropped man shield or I'd like do like leg kicks on people's legs, and they'd be dude, I enjoy that.
I have noticed you haven't been so what Juan used to do all the time was we'd just be like standing around or something, and you would kick real close to our face. And which is surprising considering the height difference. I still have no idea how your leg got up that high. You haven't been doing that as much.
I haven't been doing that as much. I think it's because the next time it's going to be just connect. It'll be a connection. It'll just be people on the ground.
Yeah.
Good.
Very good. Very good. So thanks everyone for tuning in to that. Did have one chat here from Zen Garage. This is Justin. He says, "Good stuff, guys. Been listening to you tonight while servicing my camera." Hey. Thanks, mate. Well, we're good. Apparently, have good voices for
zenning out for background noise. That's quite good, actually. I mean, and for Petar listening to this at 1.5, I hope it still zens you out with our Australian voices.
For sure. Yeah, so this, as we mentioned, this is a value for value podcast. So what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. We're not going to be taking advertising money or sponsorship money or any type of money, not only money, but I would say influence coming in where it could lead to us lying or degrading what we actually think is true and saying things which we wouldn't have said had that not been coming in, basically. So now that being said, this podcast still does require money, although I'm hopefully switching over the book reviews onto Casterpod, so that should hopefully save a couple of schmeckles.
reduce the amount.
Yeah, this, computer problems, Adobe Audition, all of this does require some financial input from our point. And so we follow the value for value model. We put the value out free of charge. You can take it and just leave it if you want. But if you have enjoyed it up to this point, if you do want to contribute back, we do very much greatly appreciate that. Time, talent, or treasure. Time, you could spend in the time to tell another person about this podcast. Say, hey, the Mere Mortals, they're very ethical guys. You should check them out. You can put in some talent. You could be a philosophy major and send us some cool quotes. You could help us to improve the audio, little things like this. Tell me what type of laptop I should get next when this one breaks. Apparently, it's an Intel is what the
going now. I think what he meant by that is like an Intel chip.
Yeah,
an Intel chip computer.
If it breaks, I will message him again and say like, what exactly did you mean?
Yeah. What computer must I get so that this does not happen again?
Yeah. And then of course the treasure. So this is sending in some monetary value back, and we don't particularly do the fiat system. We do the Bitcoin.
Correct.
The
so
Bitcoin
feel free to send through 2 Bitcoin, 3 Bitcoin, whatever you want. At this point, I think it's lost all its value. So feel free to send as many Bitcoin as you'd like. Whatever you feel is you're most comfortable with.
And to do that, we just request that you go and do it whilst you're listening to the actual podcast itself. So newpodcastapps.com, choose any of the ones in there. You heard me testing out an Albi extension on Podverse, Curocaster I mentioned with Stephen B. The Breeze app is kind of cool. You can even create clips in there now. There's Fountain, of course, which is one that's my daily driver. Castomatic, which you need to download and still need to try out. What are the other ones? There's one or two more. There's Podstation if you want to use a Chrome extension. And I feel like I'm missing one. Well, anyway, that's a pretty good list right there. Cron Job with Steve.
Cron, yeah.
Or you can just use a straight up Lightning wallet and
I'll just send it straight through. Yeah.
And that will be connected on our website at some point. Not just yet, but soon.
But it will be.
Yeah. Geez, a lot of good things. Good to get back in the groove.
Any others you want to name from that list?
There
was Moonbeam. No, really.
No, those weren't. No, I think I got the main ones.
The main ones. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Yeah. No. Man, I know I'm better than I thought. And yeah. There's hopefully the content will be improving again. It's been we've had a break, so I definitely have struggled remembering the kind of flow of. I'd be able to rattle off the latest episode. Oh yeah, this links to that episode.
Oh, for sure,
that sort of thing.
I couldn't tell you what number it is. Even so like that
332 was this one. The next one will be 333, which apparently is lucky. The meanderings. Who knows?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is 3's lucky?
3's lucky. In the no agenda world, it is.
Okay.
Podcasting.
Is it luckier than 7?
I have no idea.
Is our 333 episode going to be luckier?
I haven't seen people.
Than 777.
Apparently so. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
I haven't seen 7.
Well, stay tuned for a big lucky episode then.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And yeah, that's it. Mere Mortals. Thank you for joining in, Juan.
Whoop! That's it, please. Folks. That's all. Mere Mortalites 1 out.
Current out.
Good. Thanks, Justin, for stopping by, mate. I hope the cleaning of the camera is going well.
Yep. Thank you, Justin. I haven't tuned into your latest one because I was away this Monday, but I'll definitely do that at some point soon. And Juan, thank you for coming, my man. Everyone in the stream, once again, I'll be in the Discord chat. And once again, if you want to get this earlier than when it is released, you have to be tuning into the live stream. So we do that at 7 p.m. On a Wednesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Woo!
So everyone, thank you again, and until the next one. Ciao.
Until the next one.